Okay. On TeamSpeak, can you hear me well? I'm just checking my sound. Hmm, Can you hear me?
Greetings, dear viewers and friends. We are continuing an international discussion after the conference that aired live on December 4th, Global Crisis, Time for the Truth. And I took a part
حان
of
وقت
it as a
الحقيقة.
volunteer of
وصفت
Creative
جزء منه
Society.
كمطوع
And
في
let me
المجتمع
tell you,
الإبداعي.
this
اسمحوا لي
conference
أن
gave
أخبركم
me
لقد
chills
أصابني
to my
هذا
bones.
المؤتمر
And I
بقشعريرة
had
في
goosebumps
عظامي،
from all the
وأصبت
information
بالقشعريرة من كل
and the
المعلومات
truth that was
والحقائق
delivered to the world.
التي
And
تم
I don't know
إيصالها
if
إلى
you can
العالم.
feel it, but we
ولا
all
أعرف
know that
إذا
we
كان
live in a
بيمكنكم شعور بذلك،
wonderful
لكن
time where
نعلم جميعا
truth is
أننا نعيش في
available
وقت
to
رائع
all
حيث
of us, the
تتوفر
whole
الحقيقة لنا
humanity,
جميعا
so we can make a
بشرية جمعاء
decision of what
حتى
type of
نتمكن
world
من
we live
اتخاذ
in
القرارات
today. So I wanted to share
والعالم
with
الذي
you
نعيش فيه
that this
اليوم. لذلك
broadcast
أردت
was
أشارككم
live for
هذا
12
البث
hours. It was
والذي
put
كان
together by
مباشرا لمدة
volunteers from over
12
180
ساعة.
different
تم
countries,
تجميعه من
and it was
42 من أكثر
broadcasted
من
to thousands
180
of
دولة
online
مختلفة. تم
platforms,
بثه
and
إلى آلاف
millions,
المنصات عبر
if not
الإنترنت،
billions,
وشاهده
of people have watched it
الملايين إن
and
لم
will be
يكن
watching
المليارات من
and will
الأشخاص.
continue
سوف
to
يعيدون
study
مشاهدته
all the facts and
وسيستمرون في
all the
دراسة جميع
research that
الحقائق
was shared
وجميع
during the
الأبحاث
conference.
التي
And
تم
people
مشاركتها في هذا
participated
المؤتمر.
in that conference
والأشخاص
are true
الذين
heroes of
شاركوا في
our
ذلك
time.
المؤتمر هم أبطال
We speak of the
حقيقيون في
truth
عصرنا.
and we are not
نحن
afraid
نتحدث عن
to
الحقيقة
place
ولا نخشى
the
التعبير
life-saving
عن
information
المعلومات
that everyone
المنقذة
needs
للحياة
now,
التي
so
يحتاجها
we can
الجميع
come
في الوقت
together
الحالي
and build a
حتى نتمكن من
society
التعاون
that
وبناء
values
مجتمع
human life.
Спасибо,
يقدر
Ольга.
حياة
И
الإنسان.
с огромным
Thank you,
удовольствием.
التي
Olga.
ألقى
And
إنه لمن
with great
دواعي
pleasure,
سروري
I would like
أن
to
أقول إن لدينا
present
ضيوفا
you our
رائعين معنا
dear
اليوم.
guests. They have participated in the conference Global
لقد
Crisis Time for the
شاركوا
Truth
في
as
المؤتمر
speakers. And
كمحدثين،
today
واليوم
we
سوف
are also discussing about the
معنا الحديث
real
حول
true
تغير المناخ
causes of the
العالمي،
climate change, as the
حول
cyclicity
الأسباب
of
الدورية
24,000 years.
ل
And today we
12,000
have
سنة
astrophysicist, let me
وأربعة
please.
وعشرون ألف سنة. والآن نرحب بالمخترع وعالم الفيزياء
Yes, I'm
الفلكية إنها
representatives of official science.
بودلا
I'm
تشيكوفا. مرحبا،
let
أنا
me
ممثلة في
share
العلم
with you
الرسمي.
what is exactly cosmic physics. I finished the Department of Astronomy, Space Physics,
وحاصلة
and
على دكتوراه في فيزياء
specializing
الفضاء.
in space
دعني أخبرك
physics.
ما
And
يمكن اعتباره
astronomy
فيزياء.
officially
قسم
has
فلك
such a position as the science of
الفضاء
positions
والفيزياء
of planets
الفلكية.
and objects. Astrophysics studies the stars and distant space, and cosmic
ودراسة
physics
النجوم
study
والفضاء البعيد والفيزياء
study
الكونية.
properties of the environment and the
ندرس
universe,
خصائص
from what it consists
بيئية
of,
للكون،
which processes takes place between
وما هي
stars,
العمليات
between the
التي
Earth
تحدث في
and the
النمو
Sun.
بين
This
النجوم
is
وبين
the
الأرض
field of
والشمس.
my research
هذا هو
area of
مجال
my
بحثي.
activity. Later on, after the
فإن
university,
الشمس تؤثر على الأرض
I
والمحيط
made
الحيوي،
my
والغلاف السكني
dissertation
للأرض.
in France
وبعد ذلك
about the
عملت لفترة
sun.
طويلة
This
في
is the main
المرصد
object of
الملكي
my studies
البلجيكي،
because the
حيث درست
sun
الأقمار الصناعية
affects
الشمسية. ما هي
the
الأقمار
earth,
الصناعية
it
الشمسية؟
affects
هناك حاجة إليها.
biosphere and
نرى
atmospheres of the
كيف
earth.
تؤثر
After
الشمس
that,
على
long time,
الأرض.
I have been working in
وأيضا
Belgium, Rome
عملت لفترة
Observatory.
طويلة
I dealt with solar
في المرصد
satellites.
الفلكي الماء،
What
في
are
المرصد
they and why are they needed
الفلكي
for?
البلجيكي،
We see the sun of the earth naturally, but we see it in a, let's say,
حيث أننا
black
نرى
light,
أشعة
visible light,
الشمس
what is visible to
بشكل
our
طبيعي،
eyes,
ولكن
for our
ما هو
vision.
مرئي بالنسبة لنا
Um,
هو الذي يمكن أن تراه
we
أعيننا فقط.
observe the sun in X-ray radiation and ultraviolet of the earth.
وأيضا الأشعة فوق البنفسجية الخفيفة
Observation
لا
because
يمكن
the
القياس بذلك
radiation observed by the
من الأرض، لأن
atmosphere,
الغلاف الجوي يمتص
and we
الإشعاع.
launch X-ray telescopes into space
لذلك
outside
أطلقنا
the
تلسكوب
atmosphere, and we
الأشعة
can observe
السينية
the sun
فوق
from
البنفسجي في
unfamiliar,
الفضاء
unusual
خارج
angles.
الغلاف الجوي، ويمكننا
We see the
مراقبة
same
الشمس
object completely
من
different
زوايا
angles. Really
نظر
amazing
غير عادية.
how the same object can
نرى نفس
look
الشيء بطريقة
completely
مختلفة
different.
تماما، هو أمر
And
مدهش
recently
للغاية.
I moved to Switzerland
ومنذ عامين انتقلت إلى
because
سويسرا
here
للمرصد في دافوس،
leading
وأنا هنا
scientific
باحث
researcher
رائد
on a new
مهمة أوروبية أمريكية جديدة
telescope
تسمى
solar orbiter.
سولار
Solar
أوربيتر،
orbiter
أي
is
الشمسية
I would
المدارية،
say
وهي
big
اختراق كبير
breakthrough because
للبشرية.
this is first
لأن
mission
هذه
with
هي
telescopes
أول
which is
مهمة
not
مع
only
التلسكوبات،
moved
والتي
away
لم
from Earth
تبتعد
orbit,
فقط
it's
عن
actually
مدار الأرض، بل ابتعدت
it is beyond the
عن
plane of ecliptics.
كثير، وغادرت طائرة
Plane along which all the planets rotate. All the planets
خط
rotate on one
مسير
plane
الشمس.
and
ما هو
make
مستوى مسير
orbits.
الشمس؟
They
هذا
allow
هو المستوى الذي
for
حول
a
جميع
satellite
الكواكب، أي أن جميع الكواكب حول
to get
الشمس تدور
away
في
from
نفس
this
المستوى.
plane and to
وقد
look at the
سمحت
sun
التقنيات
from above
الحديثة
and to
الآن
actually
للقمر الصناعي
come
بمغادرة
very
هذه الطائرة
close
ونظر
to it,
إلى
not be
الشمس من
close to the
الأعلى،
sun
الاقتراب
atmosphere,
منها
but really close
بشكل
to it,
مباشر
and the
تقريبا، وهذا ما
satellites not
نسميه الغلاف الجوي
getting
الشمسي
burned. So I'm a leading researcher
دون
on this
حرق.
study
أنا هنا
of
عالمة رائدة في هذا
investigate
القمر
solar
الصناعي،
processes.
وبالطبع هدف بحثنا هو دراسة العمليات الشمسية. شكرا جزيلا لك إلينا، شكرا لك، أنت فعلا متخصصة رائعة جدا، وكذلك ضيفتنا الخاصة. ونرحب بضيفنا الخاص الآخر وهو جو بلونديل. اسمي جو بلونديل، وأنا باحث مستقل ومخترع ورجل أعمال. لقد كنت أدرس عددا لا يحصى من المجالات لفترة طويلة جدا، وأحد شغفي هو دراسة الفيزياء الفلكية والنظر إلى الأشياء من مجموعة جديدة، بمنظور جديد. أنا أؤمن بشدة بمبدأ بلانك، حيث طرح بلانك فكرة أن العلم لا يتغير لأن العلماء يرون الضوء ويغيرون رأيهم. يتغير العلم لأن جيلا جديدا من العلماء يأتي ويرى الأشياء بشكل مختلف، وأعتقد أننا بصدد إجراء هذا التحول الآن. نعم، شكرا جزيلا لك يا جو. ونحن نعيش في وقت مثير عندما نجري هذه المناقشات الدولية العالمية والموارد المتاحة للجميع للدراسة، ونحن سعداء للغاية لأن هذا المؤتمر جعل التاريخ مشرقا، أليس كذلك؟ الآن يجب أن نعرف الحقيقة، ليس هناك عودة إلى الوراء ولا يوجد إضافة، أين فقط إجراء المزيد من الأبحاث والوصول إلى حلول أكثر واقعية وما يمكننا القيام به حيال تغير المناخ وكل ما يحدث في كوكب الأرض. وأنا أعلم أن 12 ساعة هي الكثير من المعلومات، لكني أود أن أشارك جو أريانا فهمهم حول الانطباعات التي لديهم بعد هذا المؤتمر، أو ربما بعض الموضوعات التي كانت جديدة بالنسبة لكم ومثيرة بالنسبة لكم، ودعونا نبدأ بإليانا. إليانا، من فضلك شاركينا لفهمك بعد هذا المؤتمر.
Thank you so much, friends.
شكرا جزيلا أيها
I
الأصدقاء.
participated in the
لقد
conferences
استمتعت جدا في المشاركة في هذا المؤتمر،
because this is synthesis of many
لأنه
scientific
تجميع
ideas that
للعديد
are difficult to
من
find
الأفكار
through
العلمية التي يصعب العثور
always
عليها،
to new
وعالم
ideas.
عالم
And to be
حقيقي سيبحث
honest,
عن أفكار جديدة.
actually picking up
وسأقول
ideas from our joint
بصراحة
initiative
أنني جمعت الكثير من
since
الأفكار
that I like
الجديدة
the most.
من
I, for
المحادثات
example,
المشتركة
as a solar physicist,
والمؤتمرات
for me it
المشتركة.
will be difficult to understand the connection between geological processes if I
سيكون
would
من الصعب
participate
بالنسبة
in
لي
all of
أن
these
أفهم العلاقة
phases.
مع
So in
العمليات
order for me
الجيولوجية
to
لمشاركة
put
هذا
new
المؤتمر، فهو مثير
connections,
جدا
new dots,
بالنسبة لي.
and into this
إنه
astrophysical actions that I
لأمر
already
ممتع
know,
جدا
because
بالنسبة
from
لي أن
this
أربط الأفكار الفيزيائية
new
الفلكية الجديدة بما أعرفه
discoveries
بالفعل،
are being born,
لأنه في هذا
and I'm
ولدت
really like the benevolent environment.
إبداعات،
This is really important as well.
وهذا مهم جدا أيضا.
We, for example, don't have such an opportunity in our,
فإننا
let's
على
say,
سبيل
official
المثال
structure.
ليس لدينا
We have opportunities to
فرصة،
exchange so many ideas, so many times go fast until you write
لم
down
يكن لدينا فرصة،
something,
ولكن
and
الآن
then
أصبحت
it
لدينا
will become
الفرصة
outdated already,
لنشارك
and
أفكارنا،
actually no one reads this article because there are so much of them.
ولا أحد يقرأ،
Such a
ولا
huge
أحد كان يقرأ،
volume is information which was
ولكن
presented at the conference. It's of course hard
تم
to
طرح
find
عدد
somewhere else,
جدا من
and this is
المعلومات
a huge gratitude to
التي
that.
من الصعب العثور عليها في أي مكان آخر. وشكرا لكم.
Can you please share your sincere impressions of the conference as well?
هل يمكنك أن تشاركنا بانطباعاتك الصادقة عن المؤتمر أيضا؟ نعم، لقد كان مشروعا ضخما ومدهشا حقا، حيث شارك الكثير من الناس واستمتعنا بترجمتهم وبنقاشاتهم. فأنا أعتبر نفسي مستفادة، لأنني استفدت بالكثير من الأشياء في هذا المؤتمر، لأني سمعت أشياء لم أكن أعرفها من قبل، مثل التذبذب الذي يحدث في نواة الكوكب وأشياء من هذا القبيل. في أي وقت أسمع فيه شيئا جديدا لا يتعين عني البحث عنه فقط، ولكن يتعين علي بعد ذلك أخذ هذه المعلومات مرة أخرى إلى وجهة نظري الخاصة للعالم، وجهة نظر الكون الخاصة بي. وأنا أقدر حقا جميع وجهات النظر المختلفة كما تعلمون. شكرا جزيلا لكم جميعا أيها الأصدقاء الأعزاء، سمحتم لي أشارك ذهني على المنصة بعد هذا المؤتمر لأول مرة في فوق هذا النطاق. فكان هذه أول مرة. قال إلينا جو بالفعل عن دورة 12,000 عام من الكوارث، ودورة كبيرة التي تبلغ 24,000 عام، والمعلومات حول هذه الدورة موجودة بالفعل في العديد من الأعمال العلمية والمقالات والكتب العلمية، وحتى في التاريخ وعلم الآثار وآداب العصور. من المهم للغاية أن يعرف الناس هذه الدورة حتى نكون مستعدين، حتى نتمكن من الاستعداد، حتى نتمكن من المقاومة في الإرهاق، حتى يكون لدينا مخرج ولدينا فرصة للبقاء على قيد الحياة. كنت أن أعرض لكم جزءا من المؤتمر مع ضيفتنا
are much more complicated than in the case if humanity would enter a 12,000 year cycle. In what way? What explains this?
نعم، كان الأمر بالطبع أسوأ. كيف يمكن أن تفسر هذا؟ عواقب ما حدث في الدورة مدتها 24 عاما. دعيني أن أوضح لك، دعيني أن أوضح بطريقة بسيطة. دعنا نحاول أن نشرح في الملخص. ساعة، إن في هذا الساعة، هذه هي مجرتنا، وفي أعلى هذه المجرة هو الكون بأكمله، الجزء الأكبر وأدناه أيضا. هناك بالفعل قارات مثلا، هذا موجود بالفعل على حافة الكون. دعنا نقول إن هناك الساعة 12 ولدينا الساعة السادسة، فالساعة 12 تقع في اتجاه الكون، والساعة السادسة على حافة الكون. ما هي الدورة؟ وهذا هو المكان الذي يجب أن يكون فيه الفهم. تحدث الدورة عندما تدور مجرة وهي تدور باستمرار، وبالتالي فإن دورانات تبدأ 24 ألف سنة، وهي الآن تتعرض للإشعاع مرتين من الفضاء، من الكون، من المجرات. على سبيل المثال هناك، على سبيل المثال لكي أوضح الأمر أكثر، شعاع من الضوء مثل الليزر الذي يضيء للتو، يضيء ليس فقط على مجرتنا ولكن أيضا على الآخرين. هناك الجمع والإضافة، وهذا التفاعل الصعب للغاية، ليس خفيفا، إنه مختلف. أتقصد الطاقة؟ نعم، هذا هو تدفق الطاقة الذي يتكون من عدستين. دعينا ننظر نظرة أو دراسة في الفيزياء الفلكية، لكن هذا الإشعاع القاسي عندما ندخل في تفاعل الجاذبية يحدث تفاعل واضح جدا مع الكون، مع كتلة المجرات على نفس الخط. عندما تصل الساعة إلى السادسة، فهذه دورة مدتها 12 ألف عام، فإن مجراتنا بأكملها والعديد من الكواكب تأخذ هذه الضربة. ولكن إذا نظرنا إلى الإشعاع عندما تكون الساعة 12، فيكون الكوكب في مرحلة أخرى. لذلك فلا يكون هناك شيء يحمينا. هناك الكثير من الأنظمة الشمسية، فإن هذا يحدث في مجرتنا وفي الكوكب، وبذلك يحدث تأثير كبير جدا عندما نكون في لحظة الساعة السادسة، فإننا على مدار 12 ألف سنة. الكثير من الناس يسألون كيف يحدث هذا؟ هذا يعني أن المجرة تدور، فإن المجرة لا تدور فقط في مدارها، ليس فقط في مدارها ولكن أيضا في مدار آخر. لا يوجد إشعاع مباشر. حسنا، يمكنني هنا أن أشرح بمثال أوضح وبديهيا. هو منتصف الصيف، الحرارة الشمسية أو الجهة، ولدينا أشد الأيام حرارة. لماذا؟ إما أن تبدأ الشمس في الغروب أو يأتي الخريف هناك. الشتاء، الشمس على سبيل المثال على الجانب، واتضح أن الأشعة تمر بشكل عرضي ولا يوجد تأثير مباشر، فلهذا السبب يبدو أن الجو دافئ هنا، لكن ليس كثيرا، وهذا أيضا تأثير. وكما تعلمون بشكل عام بفهم مبسط، دعنا نتخيل رصاصة أطلقت من مسدس وتطير بشكل أفقي، وهناك هدف عمودي تماما، والآن أصبحت الضربة واضحة. وهنا بالطبع إذا لم تكن المادة قوية جدا فالسرعة كافية، لكن يكفي تغيير زاوية هدفنا فقط بحيث تنعكس الرصاصة عند التلامس، أي إنه لم يعد عموديا بشكل واضح ولكن بزاوية، وعندما تضرب الرصاصة سوف تنعكس. هذا هو الحال هنا. 12 ألف عام كان لدينا انعكاس هذه الأشعة ولم تكن تضرنا كثيرا، وعندما يكون هناك تأثير مباشر هنا تنشأ المشكلة. شكرا جزيلا لهذه المعلومات الهامة.
for curious scientists to ponder over, because it's like hint how what in studies for the world.
وبالفعل
And it's true that according to the ancient religions, not just the
في الأديان
rotation
القديمة
cycle
يشار إلى أن
of
ليس فقط
cataclysms has just its duration,
الثالثة
but
يبلغ
also
حجمها
the
24,000 سنة، ولكن
rotation
أيضا
just
دورة
stopped.
دوران المجرة.
And it's like in
على سبيل المثال
UK,
في
just in Hinduism
الهندوسية
there is information about the
أشار
solar
إلى
cycles of
أنه
say 12,000
تتضمن
years and peak
أبعاد
cycle
ميزي
24,000 years
24,000
of
سنة،
rotation,
وهناك
right?
دورة
And here is the
تصاعدية
question to
ودورة
Iliana as
هابطة.
an
وهنا سؤال
astrophysicist.
إليانا
So as far
كعالمة
as we
فيزياء
know
حيوية،
today, what
إلى أي
rotation
مدى نعرف
cycle is
جيدا
presented in
الآن
the
دورة دوران المجرة التي يمثلها العلم الرسمي، فإنه منتشر على الإنترنت. يمكنك أن تقرأ أنه إن عمر هذه الدورة 220 مليون سنة، ولكن هناك أيضا فهم مفاد لهذه الأرقام ربما ليست دقيقة للغاية. هل يمكنك التعليق على هذا؟ كما لو تم ذكر رسميا بأن فترة دوران الشمس حول مركز المجرة كما قلت حوالي 220 مليون سنة، لكن كيف يمكنني أن أخبرك الفيزياء الفلكية؟ يمكننا أن نقول بعض الحقائق، لكن في الواقع لا نعرف سوى القليل جدا عن الزمان والمكان. نتفاجأ باستمرار بالاكتشافات الجديدة، ثم يجدون إشعاعا من ثقب أسود في وسط المجرة، ثم يجدون ثقوبا سوداء أخرى في مجرتنا وينبعث منها أيضا، ثم تبين فجأة أن مركز المجرة ليس نصفه بل نصفه أقرب مما كنا نظن. وهذه الحقائق تظهر باستمرار، لأن كيف نقيس، كيف نحصل على المعلومات؟ فلن تتفاجئي لأنه هناك فكر مختلف جدا في العالم. ففي القرن السابع عشر على سبيل المثال غامبر غاليليو بالنظر إلى الشمس من خلال تلسكوب وقال إن رؤية الأرض تدور حول الشمس. هذا هو بشكل عام مثل هذه الأشياء التي تحدث في كثير من الأحيان. وإذا تتبعنا الطبيعة الدورية لاكتشافات مثل هذه التحولات الكبيرة، فإننا نجمع عدد كبير من الحقائق. على سبيل المثال قام مدرس كيبلر تايكو براهي بتدوين موقع إحداثيات الكواكب لمدة 40 عاما، ونظر إليها كيلر وقال نعم، المدارات عبارة عن قطع، وإنه الوقت حان لنصل إلى النتائج. وعلى ذلك عندما أشاهد هذا الفيديو مرة أخرى فإنني أفهم أن يوجد إشعاعا من ثقب أسود في وسط المجرة، ممكن أن يأتي هذا الإشعاع من أي مكان في المجرة، سواء كان هذا الإشعاع كبير أو لا. نعم، فإننا قد نرى الليزر ويمكن أن يأتي من أي مكان من قلب الكوكب. ويمكن أن يختلف هذا الإشعاع، لذلك يمكن أن يكون هذا حقيقي، يمكن أن يكون لا، لكن في العلم الحديث ما نعرفه اليوم إننا لا يمكننا أن نلاحظ أو نحدد دورة المجرة ودائما ما تكون النتائج غير دقيقة. فإذا كانت 220 مليون عاما أو لا. وهناك أيضا دورة أخرى للمجرة، ربما قد تكون أصغر من هذا. شكرا جزيلا. فقط أود أحدكم أن يوضح شيئا آخر عن عمر المجرة. نعم بالطبع، لأنه أشبه بالغازات الصلبة والغازات السائلة. نعم بالطبع بالتأكيد. الشمس تدور أيضا. وهناك اختلاف كبير في دورة الشمس، فهي تدور أيضا ولكن الموضوع مختلف. تدور الشمس حول الأرض، ولكن دورة الشمس مختلفة ودورة المجرة مختلفة، والفترات أيضا تكون مختلفة.
Very interesting. Thank you.
شكرا جزيلا. سعيدة جدا بالمشاركة معكم، وأنا دائما أنبهر بهذه المعلومات التي تطرح هنا فإن يمكنني أن أكون فهما، فإن هذه هي الحقيقة. ولكن يا جو، أعلم أنك كنت تبحث في كتاب وكيف وصلت إلى النتائج فيما يخص هذا البحث وفيما يخص هذه الدورات تتحدث عنها. أود أن أقول أن في الكتاب الأول الذي قرأته كنت أقرأ أشياء مثل كتب هاملت، وأيضا الحضارة والكثير من الأشياء والكتب التي كنت أقرأها. ولكن فهمي العلمي عن هذا مختلف. فأنا أنظر إلى الأسباب التي أدت إلى ذلك، وهو النظام الشمسي.
On the southern magnetic field, if you look at our Milky Way galaxy, right at the accretion disk, you can basically say that's the equator. And the southern field is the weak southern magnetic field. The northern field is the northern magnetic field. And we spend exactly 12,500 years in that southern wave amplitude, because it's actually the waves of magnetism that are rippling around us, causing these things. But for explanation terms, I'm just going to describe it as our solar system moving up and down from the southern magnetic field to the northern magnetic field. And the reason this is so tremendously important is that
والسبب الذي يجعل هذا مهما جدا هو أنه يوجد حوالي 30% من هذا الفضاء، ويوجد أيضا المجال المغناطيسي. لذلك 3% من عمر دورة الكوكب، وإذا حسبنا هذه النسبة 3% سنجد أن هذا يمثل المجال المغناطيسي. فإن الشمس تكون نشطة في هذا الوقت، وهذا لأن كوكبنا به مواد مغناطيسية، فنحن نوجد على قطب عملاق جدا وأيضا يتأثر بالطاقة المغناطيسية، فإن 3% من الفضاء بها طاقة مغناطيسية. وأيضا فيما يخص ما نؤمن به وما يخص المجال المغناطيسي، فإن المجال المغناطيسي الذي قد يشكل مليون عاما، فإن هذا يشكل ثلاث مناطق في الفضاء. وفي أي وقت فإن يكون لديك المجال المغناطيسي الذي ينحرف، وهذا هو ما يجعل ما يكون هذه الطاقة في كوكبنا.
in a magnetic field to ramp it up to X-ray, gamma ray levels of energy. And so we are entering the region of space where magnetic mixing is the order of the day. And that if the Earth is caught in a magnetic swirling eddy and potentially in those type of eddy currents for 200 years, that can do nothing
ل200 عام لا يمكننا أن نفعل أي شيء، والتي هي في رأيي هي السبب للانفجارات البركانية الكبيرة التي سقطت حرفيا قبل 12,000 سنة، وقبل 12,000 سنة و500 عام، وقبل 25,000 سنة. إن لدينا الأرض، وهي أعلى منطقة بها الطاقة من الدرب التبانة، حيث هذين القوى المغناطيسية أو الدورية المضادة. وفي الواقع إذا نظرتم إلى تلك المنطقة هناك ترى أنها تتراجع عن المركز المجرة. هل يمكن أن يكون هذا النقاش أن يكون هناك حرفيا نجما أولي لبدء رحلتهم اتجاه الشمس ووضع نظام الطاقة الشمسية وبدء المشوار أكثر فأكثر إلى مزيد من الأذرع الحلزونية على درب التبانة نفسها. ربما قد يكون هناك إشارة في بعض الكتب المقدسة التي تصف هذه المنطقة في الفضاء.
He describes it as the field of Brahma. Well, in the Hindu religion, Brahma is the creator god. It is the field of creation itself. And of course, it's where stars are being born. We are literally getting ready to go through this region of space where we know magnetic mixing occurs. And
ندخل في هذه المرحلة من العالم، نستعد حرفيا للذهاب عبر هذه المنطقة من الفضاء، حيث نعلم حدوث اختلاف مغناطيسي ونعرف كيفية صنع جزيئات فائقة الطاقة من الانحناء البسيط للحقول المغناطيسية الشمالية والجنوبية، وهو شيء تبحث عنه حرفيا في السجلات الجيولوجية. إنه بالفعل عندما يكون لدينا ثورات بركانية كبيرة تتغير الحياة وتغير الأرض. المكان الذي أنا فيه الآن أنا أشعر أنني محظوظ، حيث يمكنني العثور على نقطة كلوفيس والذي لديه 2 منهم، وإنها نادرة جدا كما تعلمون. عندما حكم شعب كلوفيس كل أمريكا الشمالية جنبا إلى جنب مع الناموس والماستودون وتدمر بالكامل. هذا عندما ترى تدفقا هائلا للأشخاص الذين يعيشون بالقرب من البحر الأبيض المتوسط.
If you look at Europe at those records, that's when you see
وإذا نظرت إلى أوروبا في تلك السجلات فهذا ترى تدفقا هائلا للأشخاص الذين يعيشون بالقرب من البحر الأبيض المتوسط، لكن الكثير من لا شيء. كلما ابتعدت عن الشمال يعني كان ذلك عندما كانت جزيرة بريطانيا بأكملها على ما أعتقد تحت الجليد. كما لو ننظر إلى فترة زمنية يكون فيها العالم مختلف تماما عما نراه الآن، وهذه الكوارث التي تحدث بشكل دوري بسيط عندما تنظر إلى التذبذب لأعلى ولأسفل من المجال المغناطيسي الجنوبي إلى المجال المغناطيسي الشمالي. العودة مرة أخرى، وفيزياء الحث البسيطة على سبيل المثال على معدن عملاق حساس مغناطيسيا، إنها معادلة بسيطة لمعرفة سبب انفجار هذه البراكين وبهذه الضراوة الشديدة خلال هذه الأوقات. شكرا جزيلا لك يا جو، شكرا لك. من دواعي السرور أن لدينا جوانب مختلفة من هذه الدورية، وعلى الرغم من الحقيقة أن النموذج الذي تم عرضه في المؤتمر لا يمكن أن ينعكس بالكامل في النموذج الذي تحدثت عنه الآن، لكنهما يكملان بعضهما البعض. أنا ظهر في هذا الفيديو أيضا أن المجرة لا تدور فقط، بل أن هناك حركة لولبية في دوامة، وبالفعل يلعب المجال المغناطيسي لحظة رئيسية في كل هذه التغيرات بغض النظر عن سبب التقلبات الدورية. بالضبط ما هي الحتميات التي ندرسها في الوقت الحالي؟ نحن بحاجة إلى النظر في أكبر قدر ممكن من المعلومات حول هذا وجمع كل الفرضيات ومناقشتها مع المجتمع العلمي بأكمله. لذلك أنا ممتن جدا لأنك عبرت عن جانب آخر من هذه الدورية، فهي مهمة للغاية للمشاركة من المفيد أيضا أنه بالإضافة إلى الانفجارات تتناسب حقا مع نظرية دورية كما قال جو. فقد تغير المجال المغناطيسي للأرض خلال 10,000 عام الرحلة. ويعتقد بعض الباحثين أن انعكاس المجال المغناطيسي، ولكن في هذا ما هو الفرق بين الانقلاب والنزعة؟ يحدث الانعكاس عندما تنعكس الأقطار المغناطيسية تماما. بينما يحدث الانقلاب عندما تنعكس المغناطيسي لقد بدأ وهذا منذ 20 عاما حقيقيا، ونفتكر هناك مثل هذه الحركة المتسارعة في القطب المغناطيسي، والآن نراه يلعب حقا دورا مهما في المجال المغناطيسي كما قال جو، لأن كوكبنا عبارة عن مغناطيس حديدي ضخم. هذا حقا فيه نهائي. قد تكون أولجا هي السؤال التالي. نعم، كنت مهتمة جدا بشعاع المجرة، وأنا من هو الشخص العادي؟ فماذا يحدث لي عندما أخرج من البيت؟ لذا إلينا أردت حقا أن أسألك ما هو تأثير هذا الإشعاع المجري على البشر بشكل عام؟ هذا السؤال مثير جدا للاهتمام، وبالفعل سأقول لك الآن كل ما نعرفه في هذا العلم. وأنا سعيدة جدا أن ما وصفه جو. نحن نعرف هذا بالفعل الفيزياء الشمسية، ونحن نسميها دينامو المغناطيسية، وهذا ما أعجبني ما قاله جو. إننا لم نعتقد أن النظام الشمسي كما كنا نظن، ولكن أقرب إلى الشمس من ولكن في الحقيقة أنا أدرك الآن أن لا شيء يمنع هذه العملية من الحدوث.
And the Earth is huge
حيث
ferromagnet.
هي
So
الكواكب
about radiation, what we know for
بل
sure right
والأرض
now, there is
هو
galactic
المنطقة التي
radiation that is
الحجم
called
الضخم
galactic
حتى
particles.
الآن عن الإشعاع.
They
ما
are
نعرفه على وجه
connected to
اليقين
the cycles
هو
of
أن
solar
إشعاع
cyclicity
المجرة
that we
تتبع
study.
الجزيئات المجرية وترتبط
We
ارتباطا وثيقا
people, Homo sapiens, as long as we study the science, what we actually call science.
بها.
For example, solar cyclicity, we study for 200 years. We look at the sun and we see spots there. And these spots appear on the sun with a certain periodicity. And for the first time, Carrington actually started to talk about the certain simplicity, and it took place in 1856. He was observing the sun and he noticed huge
في
flash
عام
of white light on the sun. After 2 days, Canada actually went out
1856
to look at the
قال أنه
light and
تطلع في
everything was
الشمس ولاحظت
broken.
ومضة ضخمة من الضوء الأبيض على شفتيه. وبعد يومين ذهب
Quite a long time. And imagine
الكهرباء على الأرض في كندا
takes place. Imagine for 3 days
واخترق البرق ولم تكن هناك اتصالات على الأرض. استمر كل هذا الوقت الطويل. وتخيل أن هذا ممكن أن يحدث الآن. تخيل أننا سوف نفقد الاتصال مع جميع الأقمار الصناعية لمدة 3 أيام. يكون لدينا اتصال بين القارة. وكيف نحن؟ فإننا لا يمكننا الاستغناء عن الأقمار الصناعية. ستكون هذه بمثابة كارثة. لكن أعتقد أنه ضار ليس إلى الأرض ولكن أيضا أن الأرض سيكون لدينا مثل هذا. دعونا نعود إلى دورية الشمس في الوقت الراهن وقياس البقع. وجدنا دورة 11 عاما النشاط الشمسي. أن عدد البقع في المرحلة الابتدائية جدا هو 11 عاما، ولكن خصائص الذبذبات التوافقية بشكل عام وممتلكات دورية هناك دائما فترة أكبر، والذي يتم ضرب
solar activity of 6,000 years and 12,000 years. This is what some scientists was able to actually found by some.
وهذا ما كان العلماء الشمس قادرون على إقامته في منهجهم العلمي.
Takes place now. It is called in solar physics that is grand solar minimum. Maybe you've heard about it in the literature. Minimum Dalton. These are minimum in close history every 200 years. It's actually lasts about 30 years. These are minimums that we was able to observe in our history. We were witnesses of that. But I don't want to actually make you sad, but different things take place. Different epidemics and plagues takes place during these minimums. For example, there was famine in Ireland. Revolutions takes place. The change of environment, change of bacterial level on Earth. Something takes place. Temperature changes, and this is enough for our climate to be unstable. Many correlations scientists have found, for example, dependence of solar activity on the level of disease and solar activity to the harvest, solar activity to the heart attacks.
وأن النشاط الشمسي لديه تأثير على الحصاد.
We also know that during solar flares, heart attacks occur more often. I would say healthy person with a healthy cardiovascular system, he doesn't risk anything, let's say, but if a person had predisposition it takes place during so-called geomagnetic storms. So what is a geomagnetic storm? When a flash on the sun takes place, from the sun a large cloud separates from the sun. This is a gas with a very high temperature, and this is like magnetic island, and it flies towards Earth planet. And this interaction of this magnetic cloud, it starts to shake our magnetic Earth, the Earth magnetic field. So those people who astronauts who are in space, they are influenced by this. We are protected, but we still continue to live in the shaking magnetic
ليسوا
field of the planet
محميين
Earth.
ولا
We
يتفاعلون
are
معها.
human beings. We are
نحن
citizens of
محميون
this universe.
ولكننا أشخاص يعيشون في هذا
Blood is
العالم.
going through our veins, and
نمر بالكثير من الأمور
different processes takes place in our biological
بالكثير من الأمور
cycles takes
المختلفة
place.
تحدث في العالم البيولوجي.
One Russian scientist, Chizhevsky, he was
وقال
studying
أحد
this
العلماء
very
الروس
closely, but unfortunately, due to some reasons, he couldn't continue his research, and only now these
الذي
began to continue to be studied. He actually made such a concept as useful electricity and harmful electricity for our system. And there was one fact which I would like to emphasize, which we still don't get fully, which we fully don't understand. In our brain, we have our own frequencies, alpha rhythms, how they take place. Our brain is a closed system. We also have electromagnetic impulses that are reflected from and there is standing waves. In any closed system there is standing waves. So
في الموجات الكهرومغناطيسية دائمة
frequencies
وتوقعها نظريا ثم تم اكتشافها
coincide with the rhythms of our planet, and it's described as resonance of Schumann. He also described the standing electromagnetic waves. He made a theory, and then it was discovered later on. So these frequencies coincide, and during the day and during the night these are different frequencies, because there is such a concept as ionosphere. We live in natural gas, but a little higher, around 1,000 kilometers, there are charged particles, because the temperatures are very high. Electromagnetic signal is and this ionosphere is higher and lower in winter and in summer, and it changes, and the frequencies of our thoughts changes. That's why our teacher was telling us that maybe if you will sit in silence, you will think what a person think about something in other part of the planet. You may just accept the signal. So from the point of view of physics, this phenomena can take place. So I'll get back to how radiation influence us. Let's say this minimum is minimum, but during this period flares can take place, because energy is being accumulated for a certain period of time, and there is a sudden flash takes place. And I think people get used to live somewhere in between, not the maximum or the minimum, somewhere in between, when there is certain activity, when the thoughts come into head and you run and go to do something, and during minimum we sit and nothing disturbs us. The magnetic field is not being disturbed. You don't want to do anything. Probably some such states can take place, and also biosphere is changing. Probably we need to gather and to understand that we don't want to just sit. Chizhevsky was talking about it, and he tried to understand what exactly is known to us, that during the maximum of solar activity, galactic radiation, the particles get less to us, because the field of solar system is shielded. And why is dangerous galactic radiation in relation to the solar activity? Our sun is, let's say, middle. It's like a middle-aged star, and it's easy to live next to it. Let's say Before it was spinning very quickly, and it was period of rotation. It's 5 days. But for now, it's about 30
وكانت
days.
هناك
So
دوران لمدة 5
during
أيام حول محورها،
because in
والآن
5
هي
days
حوالي
the radiation was so powerful, and
30
organic life here
لمدة
on
5
Earth was
أيام.
somewhere just when
اشتعل
the
الإشعاع بقوة
creatures were
لدرجة أنه
swimming
كان
out
هناك
of the
فقط
water on the ground,
عضوي
and
الحياة في مكان
there was no life
ما
before. So we are happy
في
that
الماء.
we have a middle age star and we are able to live. We are as a biological beings are able to
تخترق
exist.
الشمس على الفور
And
وتوجد حياة.
galactic radiation, as we
سعداء لأن
think,
في
is
فترة
usually
متوسطة
takes place from other stars, more powerful stars and more powerful particles. We can draw such examples as the engine of a car. If particles they take place and touch the ground, actually this car can get into car accident. So for now, during minimum, this is not being shielded. So what was the exact date? From 2010, this minimum started, and it's been taking place for 12 years. I forgot the exact date, but it was statistically estimated according to the amount of spots on the sun. And the minimum of 11 years activity takes place during 1 year, and for now we have it more than 10 years. Galactic radiation is very strong, and we know that galactic radiation forms clouds, and greenhouse gas effect takes place. And I was myself in different places, for example in Greece, and there was no clouds in summer. It's really hot there, but for now there are clouds. There were no storms before, and now there are thunderstorms. Now there was one type of climate, and it's changed. Now it's subtropical. And in grand solar minimum, I was really surprised. We also was talking about it during the preparation of the conference. I noticed that there are a large number of official articles appeared in scientific journals since we started to talk about this. Like, we knew about it, but we didn't talk much about it. So this minimum will take place until the 2045. We didn't get used to it, at least in the last 200 years, and modulations are taking place as well as 6,000 years and 12,000 years. And I'm talking about it as astrophysicist. I have a narrowed speciality, and interesting remarks I had to what Joe was talking about, that magnetic field is reaching the Earth. This is absolutely true, and thank you so much for sharing. I think that's all for now.
Thank you, Lena. Lots of thanks. And really, today, well, it's not common for us that this low activity of the sun, and it is really so that probably it is kind of, well, it can accumulate energy, right, and then just sharply abrupt and just decrease. And the facts that have been voiced at the conference, of course, these facts need more studying, but there was a fact, and Tali has voiced it out, that in 2019 astronomers have recorded a record-breaking flare on the nearest star to the Sun, Proxima Centauri, and it is 1,000 times stronger. That flare was 1,000 times stronger than the strongest previously known flare. And similar strange flares occurred on the previously, so to say, inactive star Barnard and the star Wolf 359. And so that's this speculation that the sun kind of well, these facts that have been recorded. Do we really need? Do we really understand that it's everything is happening synchronistically in the galaxy arm, or just going through a certain passage in the galaxy? We happen to be under the influence of this radiation. So probably, and with the nature of it, probably it's electronic or electromagnetic or any other nature. And why are we so sure that this is exactly the influence from outside? Because these changes happen actually and take place on all the planets of the solar system. And probably, dear viewers, if you have not been just aware of these facts and of all the reasons of the climate change, of the dynamic reasons and changes on the objects, please, you can find out it during the conference, watching the conference Global Crisis Time for the Truth. And these changes, what we have been observing for about 5 years, these changes are very abrupt, sharp, and quite strong. Well, we have been actually recording these changes for just last 30 years, about 30 years. And we see strong changes actually, and they're very similar to those changes that occur on our planet. And we understand all the objects of the solar system are experiencing these changes, and as well as the queen, or so to say, of the solar system, our sun, stars, the sun, it also experiences these changes. And we have just to figure out what will happen and what can we do to oppose these changes or catastrophic actually outcomes. And right now I suggest let's watch another expert from the video with the participation of Igor Mikhailovich Danilov, that for any action there is sort of say anti-action, so we shouldn't just give up. We do have a chance that we should use. Let's watch the video, please.
Igor Mikhailovich, by what means can humanity withstand this impact?
And it's the most important question. Why do we need the entire human potential? Why cannot someone do it on their own? Because first of all, we don't have this knowledge. We don't have this kind of energy. We have to understand that the power of impact affecting our planet is enormous. So all the energy that we have on Earth that is available to us is not enough to counteract the power of impact that is taking place. There is a small nuance here too. I'll just explain for understanding. Let's not delve too much into this, it would take a lot of time. I understand that people might be curious, but the impact is taking place not at the macro but at the micro level. In other words, it's not a direct impact of macro objects in outer space on macro objects. It's an interaction at the micro level between particles. It is an enormous energy. Again, I understand that the question will arise, but how is that? The interaction between large objects is a huge energy, but between particles it is weak.
Well, yes.
You see, our science is in such a state nowadays that we cannot answer many questions yet. That is why we need the combined potential to answer it. The interaction between particles, those that make up our entire universe, takes place at the energy level. It's an exchange of information as well as interconnections. That's where gravitation and many other things emerge, so these interactions are very strong. Look at what is happening to the planet. After all, destabilization comes from within the planet, while everything else is a consequence that we see. Now some people will say, what about other planets, my friends? On other planets too. We see what is happening now in the solar system, on other planets, those very landslides on Mars and many other things. There is activity too and everything else. This means it's all about cyclicity. It's just that it is somehow not trendy to talk about it, or somehow. After all, carbon dioxide couldn't have affected Mars and caused the formation of landslides, indicating instability there. But mainly the planets that have a core and magma are affected. If it's just a rock, it will remain a rock. There is nothing in it that would give rise to dissonance. There is only resonance between particles in it. It's just a rock. Whereas our planet is very complex. It has a core, magma, a crust, and an atmosphere. In other words, these are different spheres, just like in a human body, but they are coordinated. A single organism is formed. What will disorders in, say, a person's bone structure lead to? To irreversible consequences. The same is true for the vascular system or any other part. Whatever we take, any system, any disorder leads to a global destruction of the organism. It's the same with us here. Therefore, what do we need in order to counteract this? An equally strong counteraction. Let me give you a simple example. Let's use Tatiana, for example, for you to understand. Let's suppose I give her a little push, and she tilts. Why? Because there is a force of impact. And now resist it. You see, exactly the same impact, but she doesn't tilt. Why? Because she counteracts my action. If we don't put forward this counteraction, our world will simply collapse. Mars is an example of that. Those who are smart will understand, look and see where we are going. Why? Because the cause is the same, and the effect will be the same. Again, here we not only need to possess this energy, and in order to possess it, we need to discover these sources. But we also need to understand what it is and how to use it. For example, we do not use this energy correctly. Let me push you, and you apply the same force. In the other direction, you see, it's even greater. She almost fell. Why? Even a light touch.
Without help anymore, right?
Yes, she applied a lot of force, but in the wrong direction. So if we make a mistake, we will kill our planet even faster. I think it's clear now. Again, why do we need potential? Why do we need energy to build and do all this? Let me give you another example. Why? Because it's a complex process, and it requires all people, all of our potential. And why could we not do it when we were 7 billion? Why can we do it when we are almost 8 billion? Because our potential has increased, because the task is multidimensional and multi-level, and it has to be solved accordingly.
Right. Today, we need the whole humanity, the potential of all the humanity. And, Joe's words have resonated in me, well, during the conference about the unification of people. So who's going to carry out that unification? It's we, people. And Joe, I would like to address you right now. Please share, how do you see the unification of 8 billion people?
Well, there has to be a goal worth working towards, and I look at getting in psychology. There's a principle known as Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and basically what it means is that if somebody hasn't had their food, water, and shelter met, then they don't get past the limbic system of their brain to start using the prefrontal cortex and start inventing and critically thinking. That you have to have those three things taken care of before people can even get on to furthering thoughts. So even hearing that there's 8 billion people now, yeah, there's 8 billion people now, and there should be more potential. But in reality, if you look just here in the United States of America, the wages have stagnated since 1972, and rents have gone up almost 800, 900%. So in reality, rather than a civilization where we are getting more free and we're being more abundant, what we actually have is people's numbers getting inflated and them confusing and not understanding that inflation with progress and prosperity. Because the fact of the matter is, the actual brass tacks, nuts and bolts of people existing is not being met, and is actually being met far less efficiently than it was almost 45, 50 years ago. And so we as humankind have to work on what some people might consider would be an extremely lofty thing of attaining food, water, and shelter for every man, woman, and child, when in reality, if you look at how simply that can be achieved, it is the first goal to really get everybody even able to progress past that survival instinct, past the fight or flight. You have to have the basic needs met. Essentially, everyone, and I mean everyone, is capable of critical thinking, invention, and exploring the universe on the level of the greatest scientific minds anyone has ever uttered the name of. The only thing that's stopping them is that degree of security, a foundation for them to live, and time in which to start pondering these concepts. And I would also like to point out, while people think that we have more free time, when you actually look at what the deal is, we are far less free time than people had pre-World War I. We are a fraction of time to think that they did. And that's probably why you see such a revolution in science and technology back in the mid to late 1800s. That's the time when you had Tesla and Edison and everybody making the inventions that have changed our life. And really, unbeknownst to people, other than transistors and computer processing power, many of the things that we're using right now to communicate, the screens we're on, all of these things, the screen that we're using was invented by a farmer named Philo Farnsworth, who was sitting around one day thinking about electricity, how to send electricity, and how to make a coherent image. It was a farmer that invented the first transmission of video. But you look at the inventions that have been done, it's because these men and women had time and the resources to dedicate their attention towards the furthering of goals. When you look at our technology, quite literally, sure, we've had a lot of miniaturization in the last 100 years, but there's been woefully few advancements in radio broadcasting ability. And yeah, sure, there's fiber optic cables and make things a lot more dense, but the basics, we're talking about the basics that were established by Nikola Tesla being the first one to transmit radio waves. I don't care who says Marconi did it. He just stole from Tesla. You look at some of these things though in science, the leaps and bounds we have made is when there was a society that had given people the free time. And to even point at food, water, and shelter and say that's a lofty goal, that's actually an amazingly simple goal. There are technologies that can be implemented. I've invented and have implemented several of said technologies that I would be happy to share further if you'd like to hear. But the fact of the matter is, there's a lot of know-how missing on an industrial and public level as far as how simple gardening is. A lot of people think gardening is just a ridiculously difficult undertaking. And I have to say, that's complete bull. It's actually one of the simplest things there is to do. I've got a book over here. I could bring out my list of books. I brought a stack of them, but the man's name, his last name is Fugaku, and he actually wrote a book originally in Japanese, but translated into English. It's called The One Straw Revolution. And basically, he promotes the do-nothing farming. And what I mean by do-nothing farming, I personally, myself and one other person, the love of my life,
So you know what? Can we keep this story for another broadcast? Because I know it's very interesting and we want the full story. Sure. Unfortunately, we don't have time, but we will bring you back and we will discuss how we can put food on the table for every single person and how simple that is. So great. Yes, you guys come back and we will discuss that with Joe. We'll have more guests on and you will see for yourself how easy it is for us to go away from surviving into the striving mode. So thank you so much, Joe. I know you said the basic needs are so important and we know in a consumer society it's impossible, but since we're talking about creative society where human life is number one, anything is possible. And Helena, I wanted to ask you, we talked about how to unite people, but now let's talk about how to unite scientific potential so people can work together and really accelerate this knowledge around the globe.
First of all, I think the conferences are speeding up the process of unification of people, because right now I would say there is no system or platform who would do it in the same way. And you know, while I was hearing your questions right now, I got the idea, if you allow me to voice it, as a physicist. Physicists are looking for global laws of the universe and how we can describe with one formula everything. Can we do that? And there are two types of such global behavior when people, scientists, elements can unite when there is some certain force from the outside. But when this force from outside stops influences, then this interaction don't take place anymore. And as a critical self-organization, in English, can we sound like self-organized criticality? Let me bring you one more example. It's also called as phase transition. Let's imagine slowly cooled water to 0 degrees. It will still remain water because it was cooling down really slowly. But if it's a little less than 0, and then a leaf will fall and the water will instantly turn into ice. This reaction will immediately go everywhere and become ice. This example takes place really often in physics, everywhere, but there are two conditions. First condition, there should be many elements, many people, many scientists together, and only closed connection. For example, I'm connected to you, he connected to you, and certain indignation can pass from one person to another, only with the local connections. For this to take place, for the concept of self-critical organization, there is second condition needed, some critical condition. For example, in the example of water, it is 0 degrees. In mountains, these are avalanche. When there are snow slowly falling down and eventually it falls very fast as an avalanche, this is another example. And when in physics there are many elements, this example is really important. For example, in thermodynamics, there is also two beginnings, and if you will allow me to rephrase it a little differently, not the way it used to be. If we have a closed system and many elements, nothing influence it. What will take place? It will be chaos, maximum entropy, just the end. Nothing more, nothing else left. And if there's something else, and there is some critical, something takes place. If a system is open from the forces from the outside, and some critical influence takes place systems with many elements. It can be system with scientists. They can be organized because it's another law of external control, and it affects everyone. This is how I see it myself. I understood it while I was listening to all of us, that we have all conditions for this now. That's why I believe in this. Thank you.
Yelena, lots of thanks to you. And I remember your sincere words during the conference that you addressed all the scientists to get united. And I would also like to give an example as out of, from the mouth begins, crystals began to be formed, and just even from a small grain, yes, then these crystals, right, can be formed into something beautiful and something amazing in nature, right? So I would also like to say that it is right today that we are beginning the project that could be the beginning of the unification of scientists, people. So we, or each of us, right, is like small crystal that could give his or her contribution to the whole project, to the whole cause. That is why we invite all our dear speakers and viewers to go on studying towards towards one goal, so to figure out what's really happening on our planet, in order to be able to understand how we can save 8 billion of people's lives. And also we invite everyone, right, who to watch today's program, and who, just scientists, colleagues, anyone who's interested to figure it out, in order to join our efforts in our research, in joint research. And everyone, just all the volunteers who do it just out of their free will. And as Elena has said, that the more there are people in this system, right, to carry out this great project, the better, and the sooner we'll reach it. So lots of dear friends, it's been so interesting during today's International Roundtable. Lots of thanks.
Очень было интересно, замечательно.
Yes, thank you so much, and thank you so much to our guests.
Lots of thanks.
Yes, and if you're watching us now, please make sure to email any questions you have at info@creativesociety.com. We are accepting all questions. We are accepting everybody into the project. This is a project of our lifetime, and only together we can figure it out. And no one else is going to do it for us. So let's be the heroes. Let's really study every subject. Let's really try to understand it. And here we were talking about research and science today. And here what we have discussed today, we have discussed the 24,000 and 12,000 cycles. We have discussed galactic radiation and how it affects us and other planets and our planet. We also discussed the spin cycle of our galaxy, the sun flares, the catastrophes that are happening every 12,000 years, the magnetic field shifts and what it means for us, for the planet. We also talked about how everything in a galactic affects our daily lives and how we all can come together. We talked about the new discoveries of the counteraction technologies that are needed to protect our planet and lives of every single human. And of course, we discussed the unification and the project Creative Society, and not just unification of humankind, but also unification of scientific community so they can come together. And how fun would it be when all scientists of the world come together and they discuss this together and they see what is possible for us, and they look at the picture realistically and from all points of science. No matter who has what to bring to the table, we can all merge this into one big truth that is taking over the world. So it's very exciting. I don't know, you probably can feel it. I am excited. This is amazing time. We are all so grateful to be living in this time, the time of truth. And I invite everybody to join these international discussion tables and to join everybody around the globe, to ask questions, to understand more, to do your own research, to really become part of the creative society, a big human family that we are growing right now. And the class of creative society is in session now. We all learning, we all understanding, and sometimes we don't understand, but that's why we are here, to ask the right questions, to get the facts, and to really see what is human potential is capable of when we work towards one goal, which is survival of our civilization, and where we protect each human life like our own. So I just would like to thank our guests, Yelena and Joe. Thank you for being here. And I wanted to give you the last word that you can share with our audience. And Yelena, please share an inspiring message to the world after this amazing discussion we just had.
Спасибо, друзья.
Thank you so much, dear friends. I truly believe that we can create something good together, especially today when I see that so many people want to work together. How important our ideas are, how important our desires and our positive attitude. And thank you so much for this, and let's work together.
Thank you so much, Yelena. And it's so important not to be silent, and it's so important to voice the truth and do the research together. Joe, please share message of inspiration to the world.
I just have to say that no matter what position you find yourself in, no matter what economic level you find yourself in, you are able to make a positive difference in your own life, in the lives of people around you. And it takes a lot to sometimes pull yourself up, but I know it can be done. I know that you are capable. If a guy rolling around in a wheelchair can figure out how to live and restart his life, then how much more of a head start do you have right now? Even if you are not able-bodied, you have the ability with your mind and your time to study, research, and disseminate. And like you were talking about a crystal, it really is that seed crystal that when people see your life changed in a profound way, that can do nothing but spread that change to those around you. And I believe the old, the quote's beaten like a dead horse, but become the change you want to see. That is what you have to do. You have to live the reality that you want to see come into existence. And if you don't do it, no one will do it for you. You'll have to make it on your own. You have to bring it from inside and share it with the world. And by our collective sharing, we can truly make something awesome to behold on this planet.
Thank you so much, Joe. And it's exciting to see our future unfold in front of our eyes, and its future is bright. And we welcome everybody to rewatch the conference that took place on December 4th, Global Crisis, Time for the Truth. And we hope that you really enjoyed this conversation and you can join us next and bring the topics that are vital to you or the field of study that you have. Or if you're just a regular person that question things, we invite everybody. This is a project of our lifetime. This is a project of the whole humanity. We are coming together and we have a song that will bring us closer together as well to end this broadcast. Thank you so much for being on.